This is Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
This is episode 217 on the 5th of June 2020. One of the reasons to fear the current pandemic or the coronavirus or COVID 19/20 is because it is present in the current discourse and the fact that we hear about it through the print, electronic, and pseudo media every single day. The more it is getting the label of it being a gloom, staying away from people, this fantasy of what is the new normal, what was the old normal, and what in the new normal we need to do. Basically, if you look at the discourse proposed by individuals, all individuals say is don't do this and don't do that. Nobody says do this and do that. Nobody can really fault the print, electronic, and the pseudo media for this. These individuals or these organizations are only telling, are only showing what people want to see and people want to hear. And right now, everybody is in a state of panic, or human beings like to be in a state of panic. So they go on this discourse that once upon a time we used to take things for granted. And this line from this book makes it very true about what is happening right now. Could it be that fiction reveals truth while non-fiction is a harbor for the liar? Could it be that fables and stories are closer to the truth than is the thoroughly fast check electronic and print media? Sensation created around this particular pandemic is what individuals like. When they see trouble, when they see death, that is what attracts individuals more than language and news which is banal. Academics and pseudo celebrities put such events in a formalized language. They create a halo around it that we should change our nature. We should not take things for granted. I keep hearing from these pseudo celebrities that there is a need for a new lifestyle. These same pseudo celebrities go on a tirade that we need to change the nature of our consumption. We need to spend more times with our loved ones. They create this fallacy around human nature. These very pseudo celebrities understand that when they talk in a negative and in a manner of speaking in a somber mood, a mood where everything is gloomy, these very pseudo celebrities exploit the situation by showing that they care for others and show through their videos, through such pseudo media, that they are doing things they never thought they would do before, that they are what is called self reliant. And despite the knowledge that all their concern for individuals, for the citizens of the country and the world is all a publicity stunt, still this is what attracts the common individuals to such events. Attention grabbing punchlines related to this event is what is making the electronic, print, and pseudo media run for the past 100 days. And this is one thing which is the biggest fallacy of human nature. Let me read you a few lines from this newspaper article so as to show how in contemporary times a mountain is being made out of a molehill. Of course, we need some time and space to mourn the loss of the normal that was, but if we remain transfixed there, The miasma of despair would confine our being, pushing us towards panic, depression, and suicide. This constant practice of using terms such as panic, depression, and suicide is what baffles me. Why do we need to use such terms? What are we trying to prove? The first thing is there was no old normal and there is no new normal. It's all in the mind. But let's talk about something which we equally take for granted. It's what one calls a semi pseudo media, a semi messaging services, a semi pseudo media, and a semi messaging service. This particular brand of messaging service has been there with us for the past 10 years. It's penetrated the human mind, the human psyche, and the idea of virtual conversations has changed over the past 10 years thanks to this particular messaging services. This messaging service idealized social distancing before this term even became a reality. Irony is, individuals are not afraid or are not affected by the pandemic as much as they're affected by this particular service. If this service crashed for 1 hour, let alone one day, it would create a bigger panic than an economic recession. In technical terms, and for those sticklers and puritans, WhatsApp is not a social networking tool like Facebook and Twitter due to its private and intimate nature, but it is a free text messaging service. And now it has added additional as dead as doornail features like sharing pictures and video that require the internet. In one of my episodes, I talked about having email etiquettes, the correct way to send a message. But the question is, are there any text messaging etiquettes? Are there any WhatsApp etiquettes? In my viewpoint, there are none. There were none, but the thing is, over the past 9 years, I'm trying to understand the utility of this service. How do I exactly measure it? In which category do I put it? As I said, it cannot technically be a digital slash social networking tool because it's private and intimate, yet it's very important. In the 21st century, it is very important to have this particular service with you, to download this particular application, no matter how illogical the name of this application is. And how did the name of this application even come out? That is something which bamboozles me to this day. As I said, one of the biggest reasons individuals use this service is because it's free. Yes, there is the requirement of having an internet connection, but apart from that, one doesn't need to do much. Unlike emails where one has to log in and log out, here that doesn't need to be done. And the truth is that people don't check their emails as frequently as they check their messages. And when I mean messages, it is no longer the text messages which are sent through the network, the mobile network, but not the additional 4G, 3G, or Wi Fi network. Misinformation or fake news in the 21st and the 22nd century is not a new topic to worry about. But this particular application over the past 3 to 4 years has been associated with the idea of what is news which is fact checked, what is fake news and what is misinformation. Most hilarious part of this is that when you hear people say, WhatsApp me, what is my WhatsApp number? What is your WhatsApp number? It shows the fall of language, how the definition and the idea of language is deteriorating. This particular application has one feature which has advantage over other similar messaging services or applications. What is that one feature which puts it at a higher pedestal over other applications? It's the formation of these virtual groups. It's not only useful in terms of academic and institutional groups if there is some kind of a natural disaster. The law enforcement authorities, the disaster management authorities form groups where you can send messages about the trouble in your region. If your region is flooded, you can send your message to a certain group, and then the respective authorities will take action. Yes, it has been useful in that context when we add the academic part and the law enforcement and the natural disaster authorities work. When this service was launched half a dozen years ago, it did not make a splash. In fact, it's been there for nearly a decade, but the craze around it started only half a dozen years ago. Facebook and its cousins were beginning to stamp their authority, but misinformation, which is still an hallucination, was not a topic of debate. Only when this application became Facebook's new acquisition that we started seeing some of its effects. Now let's come back to this whole idea of groups. Right now I am a part of so many groups. Some of these groups are not even functional. What do I mean when these groups are not functional? It means conversations between individuals are not happening. It's a dead group. It exists on your application virtually. There are friends and colleagues and fellow academics added on it, but apart from that, there is nothing to show as far as a few groups are concerned. Why are these groups dead as a doornail? Well, that is one question which is difficult to decipher. It's more difficult than to decipher why are there 9 planets? Why do asteroids and meteors hit the Earth? Theory of relativity would be easier to decipher than to decipher why some groups are virtually, literally, metaphorically dead. As I said, dead means there are no conversations happening. But where there are conversations happening, sometimes the discussions are not even what the group was made for. Sometimes the discussions are just to add to the banal nature of humans. Had this application not been there, and we would have had this added burden of this hallucinatory pandemic, it would have created panic, at least in the subcontinent part. That's the nature of things that happen. This particular application might have saved humanity from going insane because they are able to at least virtually text your friends and fellow colleagues. And with law enforcement authorities having a special WhatsApp number. Yeah, I said special WhatsApp number, which means that they may not check your normal text messages, but they will surely check this particular message if you send it on this particular application. If you send the message through this particular application using this medium as the way to send a message. In fact, we form groups for everything. College class groups, those ones are for discussing exams, exchanging notes, criticizing the teacher, wishing each other birthdays, asking classmates as to who has studied how much. If exam dates are a problem, then approaching the authorities after reaching a consensus. That means emoticons of the thumbs up sign from a majority. Emoticons play a very important role in this application, be it the sign for the namaste or the sign for the thumbs up or the signs for the happy face or the smiley face. Emoticons are an important aspect of the conversation involved in this particular application, especially the groups that are formed. These groups are privileged, these groups are private. Individuals may or may not meet in the physical world, irrespective of what has been happening over the past couple of months. Being a part of an organization means you have to be part of a group. One is added automatically. It is a privilege. This is not only from the point of view of academics, but any group individuals are a part of. There is an unwritten rule that what happens in a WhatsApp group stays in a WhatsApp group, meaning that any discussion or squabble on this is confidential. Means if you are arguing with an individual, it is to be taken seriously. X pokes fun at Y and Y feels bad and Y answers back, then there will be a moderator or what one calls an admin, and the admin has the right to remove X or Y if they are causing harm to the entire group. Can you believe that virtual squabbles, virtual arguments are now becoming a reality, that individuals who don't even meet each other but they are arguing on these platforms is somehow disturbing the nature of the group, it's disturbing the environment of the group. Did you even think this was possible a couple of decades ago? But that's what the new normal is. The offline worlds, just as there are groups within groups, this habit is now spreading like a viral fever in the online world, in the digital world, and once again new groups are formed for further confidential discussions, one that is not privy to the rest. If there are a few individuals who are friendly in the offline world and they want to discuss something, but they don't want those conversations to be heard by other individuals, rather in the virtual world read by other individuals, then they form their own group. And this is different from the groups that are formed for official reasons. Sometimes a certain section of the institution, employees or students, is more friendly within themselves, so they form a new group where they plan hangouts, meetings, which is to be kept for the elite, and people are added after very careful scrutiny and checks. Then there is the case of admins of such groups, admins or moderators, who are equivalent to cult figures. There is a sense of gratification when we become admins because of the enormous responsibility that accompanies it. Being an admin in this group means that we have the power and the responsibility to add or remove individuals, and also are under scrutiny by law enforcement agencies, especially in this part of the world where if a certain group is used for malicious reasons, then the admins of those groups are the ones under scrutiny. They will be the ones who will be questioned first as to who were these individuals you added, what did they say. I read such things, it made me laugh from the core. How is this possible? Why are we giving such importance to these pseudo groups? But that's the thing, we have to give importance because conversations have to take place. If the admin feels that a certain individual is causing harm to the group, I repeat again, if the admin feels that a certain individual is causing harm to the group, they will be removed. Or if an individual feels that there are too many unnecessary messages in the group, unnecessary conversations happening, and it's not living by what the group is made for. If it's made for information, then no other conversation should happen. That is what a few individuals feel. They are bombarded with messages. You get up in the morning, you see your text messages flooded with conversations, photos, unnecessary photos, and conversations which are often diverted from the actual nature of the group. So, a few individuals seeing this leave the group. Sometimes, what happens that when we are a part of so many groups, we often want to exit one group, but by mistake, we exit another group. It has happened with a few individuals I know. Let's look at this in a more serious manner. Over the last couple of months and years, this platform has been allegedly used to spread misinformation, that is through forwards, through an individual sending you the link of a website whose information may or may not be fact checked. So, authorities now want admins of suspected groups to register themselves. This is where the world of media has come to. The same way mainstream media, that is the electronic and the print media, is registered with the Registrar General, thus giving these admins the same status as of a newspaper or a broadcasting media editor, that is the gatekeeper. These groups were meant for casual conversations, but the speed at which we are adapting and adopting this particular service, admins are now like managers, and who to add or delete is akin to hiring or firing. Text messages are free, that is, if one has a certain service plan, then they are economical, but WhatsApp is the more saner choice. One can now share documents, videos, and audio clips, and this means WhatsApp is now a substitute for email. It is a substitute, but it will never replace the email. And there is no WhatsApp etiquette. Remember that. Yes, you can be thrown out of a group because of your behavior, a behavior which is not tangible, which is abstract, and that's the reality. It is becoming official and legal, and anything said that is tantamount to be hurting an individual is now an offense, and I find this to be preposterous. There is a sense of gratification when we become admins because of the responsibility and the power that accompanies it. Just as we have Facebook feeds and Twitter posts where people pour to their heart's desire their ideas about incidents around the globe, proposing to convert it into a pseudo debate for the amelioration of the society as well as photos and other achievements. This application has added the feature of status where one can now put GIFs, photos to tell the world of what is happening in the life of a particular individual. Removal from a group is akin to being ostracized and blacklisted. If one leaves a club or an organization of some kind like school, college, and if we are part of a generic group, removing oneself from the group is a protocol that needs to be followed because now the conversations are out of bounds due to its classified and cloak and dagger nature. The group is like a symposium of synod style assembly of people who would have never mixed otherwise. Strange thing is that WhatsApp group have developed a code of behavior that includes a set of manners, which means that, as I said, you cannot discuss what is happening in the group to the outsiders who are not part of that organization. Then these groups are a part of human nature and there is nothing we can do to avoid them. They will remain with us for the rest of our life as long as humanity exists. This ends episode number 217 on the 5th of June 2020.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.